Hey, and welcome to the Revival of America podcast. This is Jenny. I'm the owner and the host of the Revival of America. Today we have Field Mcconnell in the house, everybody. So please feel free to raise your hand at some point in this podcast, and I will unmute your mic and you can ask Field your question. Or if you want to write your question underneath his logo on the wall, please feel free to do so. Also, everybody, please be careful who you're listening to, who you're following, and what you're putting into your mind. I can't tell you enough. I sit in these chats and spaces for a reason, so I can come back and tell you it's getting crazy out there. The Trump movement, the MAGA movement, they are putting infiltrators in there to purposely put that divide in between us. So please be careful, everybody. Tighten up that circle. Be careful. If you have 3 to 5 people that you've been following your entire journey, they haven't led you wrong. Stick and stay with those people, everybody. It's not about following all these channels anymore. It's about following the right ones because a lot of people are starting to fall from the wayside, and many people that we have followed and maybe have thought were good are we're finding out things about them that may not be so pleasant. And we're going to find the same thing with people that were bad. They may be good. So everybody, I just cannot implore you enough. Please be careful what you're putting in your mind, who you're following, because your mind's a powerful thing. And if you're not ready for what's about to happen and all the stuff that's going on, you could be easily slided to go onto that other side. I'm seeing it happen with people that have walked the walk with this entire journey. Now they're getting a different spill and they're going on the wrong track. So everybody, please be careful. All I can say to you guys, the easiest thing to do is get out of the noise, stay out of it. You know me, I don't do drama. I'm not about the follows. If you listen to my podcast, great. We're making noise. You're hearing the message. You don't have to follow me to listen to the podcast. It doesn't matter. I am here to give the truth as well as my guests. And like I said, it's just very important who you're following and what you're putting into your mind. Everybody, stay out of the noise, stay positive, stay out of that drama, exit, leave that shit right away. You feel like you can't handle it, then don't stick and stay. I listen to a lot of it so I can come back and report to you guys what's going on. And it's getting crazy out there. So, you know me, I'm not about bashing people, but I will let you know that people are turning on each other and it's happening, everybody. So please be careful. Also, too, if you get a random text, somebody saying that it is me, they're asking about the scare event. If you're ready for crypto, any of that stuff, talking about your finances, know that it is not me, myself, and many of us other podcasters such as Captain Kyle, SG Anon, Derek Johnson, Rob Cunningham, Alpha Warrior, you name it. They will not randomly reach out to you and ask you these questions. Please, nor will myself, please block report. Let me know so I can make sure they're not here in my channel because I'm not about to have some scammers and infiltrators come in here and try to take advantage of you, my members, or the guests. Also, too, if you come into the podcast late, everybody, you can listen to the podcast on the podcast host or the social medias, which are iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Podbean, Riverside, Amazon Music. Social medias, everybody. I am getting all of those as quick as I can verified. The majority of them are verified. And I'm doing that for you guys to know that these are my legitimate accounts. The 3 that aren't verified are True Social, YouTube, and then TikTok. So the social medias are Jenny Dreed Facebook, at Jenny underscore X, at Jenny Dreed Rumble, at J Dreed Rumble, at J Dreed True Social, at J Dreed Instagram, The Revival of America right here on Telegram, The Revival of America on YouTube, and at the official J Dreed on TikTok, everybody. So please, if you can't follow the podcast host, go follow one of those and you can get the latest updates on the podcast. Also, too, everybody, if you have a story or a journey to tell, please reach out to me at the revival of America at yahoo.com. We'll get your stories and your voices heard on the show because remember, everybody, it's your voices that matter and are going to help shape this new world that we are coming into. And then, certainly, last but not least, go check out the website. Sign up for the newsletter. It is free. This way, you get the latest updates on the podcast as well as the show lineup. And I've been a little bit behind on the show lineup, everybody, only because I've been, moving and trying to get set up here in my new location. So please bear with me, everybody. We should hopefully be back to regular scheduled programming next week with Derek Johnson, Field McConnell, obviously on Monday. But I'll put that show lineup out here as soon as I get everybody confirmed. But Friday, everybody come back here. We will have Dallas from PPN, everything RV news. And then John Baxter is back with us from the Anti-Aging Medbed. He has been out. He has taken his company, Anti-Aging Medbed. He's taking it public. So he's been dealing with that. It's been a lot, and he briefly shared it with you guys, and I think he'll probably come on and tell us a little bit more about his journey. But please, everybody, he will be here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then Dallas, or not tomorrow, Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, and then Dallas will be 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on Friday. So we'll come back for those shows. And then tonight we have over on X, I will have Josh Reed from Red Pill TV. You've heard him probably with Alpha Warrior on several of his shows, and he's been on here once, but he's going to come back tonight and talk about the silent war, as well as the biggest the biggest wealth transfer in human history over on my X space, and that link is on the wall. And then also Captain Kyle, of course, his regular scheduled program today at 5:30 Central Standard Time. So with that, everybody, I do believe Field is in the house. For some reason, he comes in muted. I don't know why, but let's go find Mr. Field Mcconnell, and we'll unmute his mic. Hello, Field. How are you? Are you there?
Yes, if you're talking to Field, I'm here.
Talking to you, Field. How are you today?
Oh, I'm better than I was yesterday or the day before.
Oh,
But
feel
my
feeling better?
voice is, yeah, I feel better. But my voice is what I'm dealing with now. But Angel over in England told me to get some local raw honey, and that's what I'm drinking right now. Raw honey melted into hot water. So hopefully my voice will hang in there.
Well, you sound good. So far, so good. So let's see, Phil. Do you want to talk anything specific today? I know we've been really kind of honing in on the 9/11, which, with all due respect, we should be because you are the original whistleblower for that. But also, too, there's other things that are coming out. And I didn't know if there was maybe something you specifically wanted to touch on. I know you briefly mentioned something to me, and I think you've said it here in the podcast and maybe in the chat before about Ron DeSantis and how he misappropriated some funds here recently. So I don't know. You let me know what you want to talk about, or you just want to go straight into Q&A.
Well, let me just address briefly Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. He misappropriated $10 million of Medicaid um, budget, or whatever you want to call it. He took $10 million out of the Medicaid fund in Florida and provided it to his wife and her charity, which doesn't sound real legit to me. But then, a lot of politicians are not legit. And I was a guest of the state of Florida when I got arrested. But the state of Florida and the state of Wisconsin did several things that were unconstitutional. Now, that's not such a big deal because at the time they did them, we weren't a constitutional republic yet. That became official sometime, I think, no later than the 1st of October of 2024. But we are a constitutional republic now, and that means the courts, the judges, and the attorneys have to be retrained or recertified as constitutionally aware. Uh, but another matter, when I was being abused by Ron DeSantis and Governor Tony Evers of Wisconsin, I was being denied due process. And I could be real specific, but I'm not going to be, because I will be real specific. Is there some background noise?
Yes. Yeah, I had to mute him. Ace had his mic on. Sorry about that, Phil. Go ahead.
Yeah. Due process is something that many people in America don't even know what it means. But if you're a governor of a state, you should know what due process is. And I was denied due process. And I'll be putting some rather scathing comments about Governor Ron DeSantis and Governor Tony Evers of Wisconsin. and they can just deal with it, because I don't do things that I make up. I try to be very truthful. And when you're a whistleblower, and thank you for pointing out that I was the original 9/11 whistleblower, and I knew on the morning of 9/11 who was involved in the attack, because they used basically an unknown technology that I knew about, and I shared that with my sister. And the reason I shared it with my sister is, at the time that I shared it, December of 1988, which is 13 years ahead of 9/11, she had a problem at the U.S. Marshal Service airline, which is commonly called Con Air for Convict Airlines. And the more appropriate name is JPATS, Justice Prisoner Air Transportation System. And so when I saw whatever those flying objects were, they were not the ones that hit the tower and the Pentagon. They were not airliners with human crews and human passengers. And here's the part that really bothers me. I was saying this on 9/11. That's 24 years ago, give or take. So why have people like former FBI director Robert J. I think it's Robert J. What's his name? Uh, but I and my sister and Mueller. Robert Mueller, I believe, is the name of the former FBI director. And I sent a lot of stuff from him, and he did nothing. But they apparently took what I was saying seriously, because by 2007, I think it was, um, yeah, it was 2007. It was March, maybe March 7th of 2007. The management office of Northwest Airlines got a call from the Department of Justice, and the call went something like this. This is so-and-so at the United States Department of Justice. Do you, Northwest Airlines, have a pilot employee named Field Mcconnell? And Northwest answered it honestly and said, yes, we do. And they were threatened by the Department of Justice, who said, you better get him to shut up, or you're not going to get any more route authority to Japan and China and other places out in the Orient. So I think that's dirty pool, but it sort of establishes in my mind that they knew the information I was publishing and broadcasting was very injurious to the deep state and the UK fake royals and the Vatican Jesuits. And I'm not bad mouthing the Vatican. I'm not bad mouthing the Catholic faith or run of the mill priest, but the Jesuits were involved in child trafficking. And so were many, if not most, of the elected officials in the U.S. Deep state. And my sister sort of choked when I put her name out there, but I recognized how that 9/11 attack was fundamentally made possible. It's because of the technology I gave her. She shared it with Hillary and Hillary's fake husband, Bill Rockefeller, in both cases. And the mathematical blueprint of the 9/11 attack was 4 airliners, American 11, American 77, United 1, pardon my voice, United 175 and United 93. And United 93 could not strike its assigned target, which was the Capitol Rotunda, where both houses of the Congress, the vast majority of their congressmen and senators were in that building. And that's what United 93 was supposed to strike, which would have killed the pretty much the entire Congress. And that would allow some traitors like both Rockefellers, Hillary and Bill, and my sister and George H.W. Bush to shut down the elected officials and replace it with a continuity of government operation that installed a bunch of treasonous people. And I I had that. I didn't have all the details, of course, the day it happened, but I knew exactly where that technology came from. Now the videos, the alleged videos, and I'm not saying they were videos or CGI, but because of my background flying air defense fighters, which means if there's anything moving in the air above North America, which includes both the US and Canada, then they deploy some alert, ALERT, alert interceptors, and they vector them. And the term for speed that they would have used on the morning of 9/11 was, if they were talking to the three F-16s from Fargo, North Dakota, which was the unit I retired from after flying the F-16s, when they got airborne, um, they were told something to the effect of climb straight ahead to flight level 310 Buster, Buster. That means max forward airspeed, which for an F-16 would be about Mach 1.8, I think. I haven't flown one since 93, but they move along, and more impressive than their speed is the amount of G's they can generate. And that's why the F-16 has a seat that's tilted back 28 degrees, because then your body, and there's only one pilot in a F-16, there's something called G-lock, and that's spelled GLOC. It stands for G-induced loss of consciousness, because you can pull 9 Gs, which is very useful in intercepting because you can outturn pretty much anything else that was available to the enemy or the assumed enemies of the United States. So, uh, did I know everything about 9/11 on 9/11? No, but I knew from the number of minutes that United 93, which was flown by Captain Jason Dahl, uh, I knew that they couldn't strike their target because they were 41 minutes late. So somebody somewhere wanted to put the idea in the mind of people that are familiar with aviation and traders, TRAITORS. When that aircraft was delayed for 41 minutes, that was the signal to some people that can handle all this information. That meant that George H.W. Bush was involved because he was POTUS 41. And so it's just a gang of thieves, but they've been known and identified going back 24 years. And I just taped an interview on Sunday, this past Sunday, so 4 days ago. And I don't have a copy of the interview yet, but it was both oral and visual. And when I get it, I'll send that to Jenny and she can do what she wants with it. and I'll send it to other people that I care about and respect, because I was the one answering all the questions. And the three ladies, and I call them church ladies because they're all devoutly Christian, and they had very good questions. And at one point, about halfway through, or maybe 60% through, I said, "You ladies are asking really good questions. How come you're so well prepared to ask me questions that are so specific?" And all three of them said, "We three have been watching you for 7 years." And that would include some of the last shows on YouTube, Able Danger, and it would involve everything I've done with Jenny. And so it's nice to know that the information is getting out in a format that people without aviation backgrounds can still understand who did what on 9/11. And so I don't know if anybody in the chat knows. I believe, well, I know for sure that Donald Trump has said he's going to declassify 9/11. And so when I get that interview that I did Sunday with the three church ladies, I'm going to send that to some office that is under Trump, and it has white hat intelligent intelligence agents and white hat military assets. And the white hats have been very busy around the globe, rounding up traitors. And a traitor is simply someone who commits treason against, in this case, the United States of America. And it's my belief that my own sister has been executed. Now, that didn't have to happen, but then she didn't have to be involved in the attack of 9/11, and she should have been a little bit smarter not to put out the technology I provided her. And keep in mind, I told her in a private phone conversation late at night, I said, "What happened on 9/11?" No, excuse me. In December of 88, she had an issue. She was the director of the U.S. Marshal Service. They'd been told, meaning not just the U.S. Marshal Service, but all the airliners that fly it's called Part 121 operations in the United States of America. They were told that they would no longer be allowed to haul passengers, convicts, from Hawaii to the mainland. And I said to my sister, "Oh, that's not true. We do it all the time." And she and I were both right, but I misinterpreted what she said. They had been told they wouldn't be able to do it much longer. And so she was picking my brain how to make it impossible for human hijackers to physically take over an aircraft. And I told her, "Oh, that's no problem. Um, all you need to do is whatever airliners you're going to be operating with prisoners, just make sure they have a Boeing uninterruptible autopilot down in the E&E compartment." And that's electronics and communications and stuff like that. And by the way, I hope nobody's getting overwhelmed. The Boeing uninterruptible autopilot was not a Boeing part. It was provided by General Electric. And I think that the people that were in charge of General Electric when they built this device called the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot, I think they were sabotaging airliners so that they, not the airlines, but the traders could then commandeer electronically any of these airliners that had the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot. And that's what they did on 9/11. That's what they did with MH370, which on the 9th of March of 2014 was reported to have crashed in the South Indian Ocean. That was never true. And so there's been a lot of millions of dollars wasted looking for the crash site. The only problem is it didn't crash. It was electronically hijacked, and it's my opinion that the corporation named Serco did it, SERCO. And it was hijacked when it got to a specific location where the Singapore, Malaysia, and Vietnam airline or transportation sectors meet. And the name of that specific oceanic waypoint is BITOD, B as in Bravo, BITOD. And there was a military operation going on in that area that night. And MH370 had taken off right around midnight. And it was supposed to go land at Beijing, China, but at BITOD intersection, it was electronically commandeered, and I believe it was by Serco. And that's premeditated murder of a lot of people. But it landed safely at Diego Garcia because the United States Air Force had an AWACS aircraft up in the military exercise that night. And the radio started to come alive with talk about MH370 reversing course and going back to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And the people in the Air Force and the other militaries of numerous countries, including Australia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and I'm forgetting one or two. When it landed safely at Diego Garcia, I'm just going to demonstrate my mental condition right now. My voice is bad, but my memory is very good. It landed and it was remotely flown. It was remotely landed because all of the passengers and the crew members had been killed by the air tranquilizing inducer. I think that's what, anyway, it's pressurized air, and they could select 3 different levels of poison, one level being a small amount that would relax everybody after they would have been led to believe that the aircraft was being remotely flown. The next level would be, it would put them to sleep. But the level that was used on Malaysia MH370 was a lethal dose. So when they landed, and here comes the specific time, the aircraft landed safely, it taxied into a hangar, and the parking brake was set. Both engines were shut down remotely. But when the humans pushed up a set of stairs that would reach up to the height of the door called 1L, and what L stands for is left, the most forward door on the left side of the aircraft. And when representatives of Britain, Israel, and America got up there was nobody to tell them it was safe to open the door. So they opened it up anyway, and they were surprised and also saddened to see 239 corpses that had been killed. And that created a big problem for Malaysia Air Systems. Now that Malaysia Boeing 777 with 239 corpses had to be flown away with the corpses on the airliner, and that's where MH17 came in, because it was the airframe, meaning the fuselage, engines, wings, all that stuff, that had been MH370, but it was dispatched from Kuala Lumpur um, up to Amsterdam, where it was met by an airline handling service from Israel, and the name of that service is MENZIES. That's pronounced Menzies. Um, so when they got the aircraft serviced and fueled to be dispatched the following day, they added more than 40 more corpses. And this has all been verified because a Russian or Ukrainian lady, probably Ukrainian lady, but she was speaking Russian, she came with her camcorder and was talking as she viewed what was left of the airplane and a bunch of bodies that fell out of the airplane when it was detonated in the air. And she said that there were, and I think she even knew the number of 239 partially decomposed corpses, and they were black, not because they were black humans originally, but as they decomposed, their color changed. And the other batch of 40 or more were all Caucasians. And something very unusual about the all Caucasian 40 or more victims was none of them had any blood in their body. And these guys, the 40 or more, were AIDS and HIV experts, and they were all killed too. And so, just for me personally, it's a little frustrating that when you tell an FBI director this stuff in very accurate detail, nothing's done, and nothing has been done about 9/11 up to now, 24 years later. But Donald Trump has stated that he's going to declassify 9/11, and one of Trump's catchphrases is promises made, promises kept. So I look forward to helping the white hats in Trump's military to come up to speed with what really happened. And, you know, the only reason I know this is because of the conversation with my sister late one evening in December of 1988. So I think I'll stop there. I think I'm beating a dead horse, aren't I, Jenny?
Doing good. I was actually gonna ask you. So we talked about MH370 and Serco a little bit, and of course 9/11. So it's safe to say we already know you're the original whistleblower for 9/11, and we can say safely that you are also the original blower for MH370. Is that correct as well? And Serco, SES,
Yeah.
and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm the original whistleblower of MH370. And there's another charlatan whistleblower out there whose position is that he was the first one to discover where MH370 had crashed into the South Indian Ocean. The only problem is it never crashed into the ocean. It landed safely at Diego Garcia with 239 dead passengers and crew members. So if it didn't crash in the ocean, why would a supposed, first person to figure out where it crashed, why would they still be talking like that? Because I'm sure that the guy's name, I think his name is Ashton Forbes, but he's he has proclaimed himself to be the leading expert on where MH370 crashed, but he's not much of an expert because it never crashed. It landed safely. And this is not rocket science. Um, if you have a background like I have, I was an airline pilot 31 years, and I was an air defense interceptor pilot for 16 years. And so my job on both ends were displayed when MH370 was electronically hijacked with a BUAP, Boeing Uninterruptible Autopilot. I'd say the most significant word is uninterruptible. Once the once the Boeing Uninterruptible Autopilot is triggered remotely, or even if somebody was foolish enough to trigger it from a laptop inside the aircraft, uh, well, that person wouldn't be too bright. So I think it was triggered by a corporation initially named Serco, SERCO, the biggest company you've never heard of. That's the title of YouTube that describes them. But then, fortunately, there was a U.S. Air Force AWACS aircraft. That's the one with it's a four-engine Boeing 707 derivative with a huge round disc on the top, which is an antenna that can control air orders of battle, up from 200 to 300 miles away. And those Air Force guys, I I presume they got permission to do what they did, but they electronically hijacked it. And the Serco hijackers apparently weren't aware that there was a back door into the technology, but the Air Force guys were. And so they took control of MH370, and then they shut the back door so nobody could take it away from them. And at the very least, those guys should be recognized and given awards for trying their hardest to get the aircraft safely on the ground. And they did. It did arrive safely on the ground, but all the passengers were dead. And that's premeditated uh, first degree murder of 239 humans that were innocent of any wrongdoing. Um, so is that sufficient, or do you have any questions, Jenny?
You did great, Field. And yes, I do have a couple mics that I have unmuted here, so I'm going to call on those guys. So everybody, if you guys
Oh,
want to,
good.
we're going to open it up for Q&A. So if you want to ask Field a question, please raise your hand and I will unmute your mic. Or if you cannot speak, there is a logo that says Field Mcconnell on the wall. You can write your question underneath the comment box. So Ace 18, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead and ask Field your question. Go ahead, Ace 18. You had your hand raised. I unmuted your mic. Go ahead. Okay. USANAN, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead and ask Field your question. All right, everybody. If you raise your hand and I unmute your mic, try to, if you have a question, please feel free to ask, Field the question. If not, then yeah, don't raise your hand because then it confuses me here a little bit. A sock puppet, go ahead. You unmuted your mic. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So, Field, what a horrible story you just told. My dad was a lifer in the Air Force SAC RBS, and I just want to say we're kindred spirits in that regard. My question is this. I have a friend of mine that's an aeronautical engineer. I've known him for over a decade. He wants to be a whistleblower. He's got information of shenanigans and chicanery going on inside one of the military research centers, and he's got family members that are inside, and I he didn't know who to go to, and I mentioned you to him, and I didn't know if this is the right. I apologize if this is the wrong format to do this, but I wanted to know if you would be amiable, and our hostess would be amiable to me getting him in touch with you directly as a whistleblower.
Yes, that would be very useful. Um, and I've been getting this that this is something that is really current. I'm starting to assume that my name's getting spread around in a way that could be helpful to the United States of America. But I'm going to ask Jenny a question. Jenny, if this lady DMs you, could you give her my phone number?
Yeah, absolutely. With your permission, for sure. Absolutely. So yeah, sock puppet, just go ahead and touch my avatar here and DM me, and then we'll get you connected with the field.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Oh, he's calling me right now. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. Let's see if I say this wrong. Kinzu Asu. Did I say that right? Your mic is unmuted. Go ahead. I think I said that right. Kinzu Asu. Go ahead. Your mic is unmuted. All right, everybody. If you request a mic and I mute your mic, please make your comment or question to Field because it's just Field gives me 90 minutes of his time, so I want to be respectful of that time. So my last, go ahead, Kinzu. Your mic. What happened? Can you hear me now? Your mic's unmuted. Go ahead, Kinzu Asu. Did I say that right? Go ahead. Come on, everybody. Say something. You request a mic. Your mic's unmuted. Go ahead. All right, moving on to the next. All right, Field. So I don't have any other hands, but I'm going to ask you as we talk about these people out there claiming to be whistleblowers, such as 9/11. What do you say to the audience here? Because we're seeing a lot of that, right? People claiming to be something that maybe they aren't. What do you say to the audience here when
Yes.
they hear stuff like that? When they hear stuff like that?
You're not listening to a whistleblower. You're listening to a misguided um, truther podcaster that thinks they know more than they know. But and I'm not overly respectful of those people because if they know it, they would never say anything like where MH370 crashed because it never crashed and it landed safely. And I'm not trying to I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I'm also hoping I won't get shot in the head. But that's a risk I'll take. But the people that are lying as podcasters, and there's plenty of them, they're doing really a disservice. But another group that's less nefarious, that's doing a disservice to the mission, is people that raise their hands and then, because of what could be attention deficit disorder, they raise their hand and then they don't hang in there until you call their name. And I think I know why that bothers people because I run on with giving as much information that I know to be true. And sometimes, like on this show, I don't know how many minutes I spoke before I came up for air. But the reason I do that is because I'm I've built a history and a qualification as an SME. Um, Now it's called subject matter expert or subject matter expertise. And I, I started to mention this, and I guess I didn't finish it, but in the last 5 to 10 days, I've been getting a lot of spam calls, and I don't answer any of them because if anybody knows my phone number, they know they could text me and they could say they want to talk and they could tell me what they want to talk about. But there's a lot of cowardice and there's a lot of BSers. Um, and I don't believe I've ever broadcast who made sure I didn't get killed when I was arrested on the 4th of November of 2019. And when I got unlawfully extradited to Florida, and I was in Florida first in jail in Fort Lauderdale, and then I was released to house arrest and I could be at my son's house in Stewart, Florida. But I was detained for a total of 16 months, and they wouldn't let me go home to say goodbye to my wife, who was dying of thyroid cancer. And she did die, and probably, let's see, she died on the 30th of December of 2020. And it wasn't until I think the 16th of January of 2021, they finally let me go. They let me go for a couple of reasons. I hadn't been proven guilty of anything, not even a misdemeanor. And yet they wouldn't let me go because they considered me a flight risk. And they thought that when I talked about my wife dying, I was trying to play into perhaps some sympathy. And they wouldn't do it. And she did die. And I find that unconscionable. And, you know, what can I do about it? Well, I'm going to keep talking. And I've said years ago, back during the Able Danger days, I said, if somebody doesn't like my direct style and it's called the stream of consciousness. Or it might make more sense to say word association. But that's why I have such long-winded answers. I'm trying to put out as much truthful information as I can recall in response to questions. And the reason why Jenny and I prefer to have questions from the chat room is that should make it quite obvious to everyone that I'm not pushing a narrative, because if I don't know what the questions are in advance, how could I be well prepared to answer them? And the answer is I'm well prepared because I'm doing this. I've been working against, well, the Clinton Foundation participated in probably 13. That's a probably, not a for sure, but it's called Murders for Hire. And they were murdering innocent people in airliners. And, my name's no secret to Bill, what was his real name? William Jefferson Rockefeller, but he went by Clinton. But his biological father was Winthrop Rockefeller, who was the governor of Arkansas back when Bill was conceived and delivered. His real name should be Rockefeller, because it was a Rockefeller who impregnated his mother. And I believe his mother at that time was living in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And it's a little frustrating, to be able to speak with expertise on the subject matter and yet have nobody in the government do the right thing. But fortunately, we have a new sheriff in town. President Trump is doing the right thing. He declassed the JFK assassination, and he's going to declass 9/11. And I, for one, would love to participate in making their job easier, because I think I could travel to any court anywhere in the world and not be beaten in oral arguments. And certainly no attorney could beat me, because their background is amphibian under oath. And my background is not only being an airline pilot for 31 years, but also being an interceptor pilot for NORAD for 16 years. So I'm pretty well knowledgeable of both sides of what happened on 9/11, the good side and the bad side. And I think it's way past time for that to be remedied. Look at all the families who have lost loved ones because the airplane they were on was blown up. And that's why I'm very committed to the truth. I'm very committed to a remedy if it can be arranged, and I think that's exactly what Donald Trump is going to be doing. He's probably going to get some subject matter experts involved in hastening the resolution of what really happened on 9/11. How about MH370? How about those 227 passengers and 12 crew members for a total of 239 innocent victims? And they don't have any closure. My own college classmate was the captain of American 77, which the fairy tale spinners in the mainstream media said hit the Pentagon. No, it didn't. It was a bunker buster AGM Raytheon produced bunker buster missile that was fired 3 frames before the aircraft, which was a obsolete Navy A3 Sky Warrior, SKY, space, WARRIOR, and 3 frames of the video camera surveillance from every angle shows a missile coming off that A3 Sky Warrior and blowing a hole, and it was 15 feet radius, I think. Uh, it could have been 16 feet. But how can all these people in the world think that a 757 flew through that hole? The 757 engines, wing, and empennage, which means the tail, they would have been, there'd either be scars in the masonry matter that made up the walls, uh, and there was none. The only thing that was visible from outside the Pentagon was that big hole that was created by a Raytheon Corporation uh, air-to-ground missile known as the Bunker Buster. So anyway, do I ever get tired of talking about this? No, I don't, because I don't know anybody else who can talk about it. Especially, there's not a whole lot of people that even know what stream of consciousness means. But it means if Jenny were to ask me what color my shoes and socks are today, I'd say, well, my socks are white, but I'm not wearing any shoes. But I could start with that statement, talk for 20 minutes of how it relates to 9/11 or MH370 or MH17 or the United States Senior Executive Service. And I'd encourage everyone listening to write that down and go to a search engine and educate yourself on the United States Senior Executive Service, which I call Treason Incorporated. You know, if they don't like that, they can come to Plum City and, maybe we can come to an agreement of what's going to happen at their trial. But my own sister started the United States Senior Executive Service because George H.W. Bush asked her to do it during Jimmy Carter's 4 years in the White House. So if anybody wants to say that I'm bad mouthing Jimmy Carter, recently deceased, no, I'm not. I'm bad mouthing George H.W. Bush. And in addition to some other of his traitorous true history, he was a German and he was a Nazi and he was a pedophile and he used to entertain adolescent males from the school in Boys Town in Nebraska. And also there was another source of adolescent males that came from Indiana. And there's a little bit more to the Indiana angle because the governor, I think that was what he was, there was a lot of high profile pedophile action, and the Indiana State Police were protecting the governor. and I've already forgotten his name. I like to forget all these names, but I can't get them out of my head. But, we need to straighten out this mess. And maybe it would start with somebody running a conference in Dallas, perhaps in October of this year, and call the conference in Dallas the Children's Crusade. And I'll stop right there, Jenny, and see if we have any other hands in the air.
Yeah, we do. We do. Okay, we got a few mics I've unmuted. So, Best Press, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead, and then after that, we can go with Tamra. So go ahead, Best Press.
Jenny, I just want to tell you, I put this on the back wall, so you want to take it off because when nobody was asking their question, I just decided to ask it in person. So the question is there. But Field, my question to you is Hillary blood related to the Rockefellers, or is that just through their fake marriage?
I think both, but that's an I think. I don't know, but their marriage is certainly fake. Um, because of her lifestyle, she wouldn't be interested in having a child. But keep in mind, Bill had something called Peyronie's disease. So, do you know what that means, ma'am? And all I want from you is you either know or you don't know. It's not pleasant to talk about, but are you familiar with Peyronie's disease?
No, I am not.
Where you'll never forget this because here it comes. For adult men, the part of their anatomy that they use to impregnate women has a blood flow that is increased in pressure during sexual arousal, and normal men, their appendage points straight ahead. If you have Peyronie's disease, one of the two blood vessels in your apparatus does not fill with blood. And so Peyronie's disease sufferers, when they get aroused, their appendage doesn't point straight ahead. It points to the left or to the right, depending on which blood vessel isn't functioning. And there's an adage among people that are aware of Peyronie's disease, and it's sort of disrespectful, but it's not grotesquely disrespectful. The quote is, "You cannot push a rope." And what that means is, try as you might, people with Peyronie's disease cannot penetrate the female part that receives a liquid contribution from the male. And so the woman's not going to be able to get pregnant with a Peyronie's disease sufferer. And Bill Clinton, more accurately, Bill Rockefeller, because his father was Winthrop Rockefeller, the governor of Arkansas. That brings us around, well, who fathered Chelsea? Webster Hubble, that's who. And if you take a look at early pictures of Chelsea, before she had plastic surgery on her lower lip, it looked just like Webster Hubble's lower lip. That was a genetic trace that a genetic trait that he shared with Hillary. And the reason I'm coughing today, and I'm doing what a friend of mine over in England told me to do, get local honey. And I do think it's inhibiting my allergy response, but my voice just gets worn out because I talk so much, and my heart gets worn out. I don't mean like a heart attack. I mean my emotional heart. Why is it that I've known a lot of this stuff either on the day it happened, and that would include 9/11, MH370, and MH17? It's a little emotionally draining for me because I'm putting my life at risk, hoping that we collectively can stop child grooming and child trafficking. But that stuff, the groomings, I don't think generates that much income. But I think, well, the three church ladies that were in my house just Sunday of this past weekend, they're going to come speak. Two of them are going to come speak at the conference that's going to be called the Children's Crusade, and it'll be held in Dallas at some point. And the only place that I think that would be advertised well in advance would be right here at Jenny's show.
Phil, did that answer your question, Best Press?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
All right. Tamara Holmes, your mic is unmuted. And then after that, we can go with Jersey Girl. So go ahead, Tamara, if you're still here. Tamara Holmes, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead. All right, Miss Jersey Girl, you in the house? I saw you. I unmuted your mic. Are you still here? Where's everybody going? All right, Brian, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, how are you, Jenny?
Oh, hey, is that Jersey Girl? Go ahead. Jersey
Yes,
Girl, go
that's
ahead.
me.
Brian. Okay,
Wait a minute.
So Jersey Girl, go ahead, and then Brian, you go after Jersey Girl. My apologies.
Okay, sorry for that. But anyway, listen, Field, I love you. I don't, you really are an American hero. And the people are waking up to this and they're starting to understand, which is freaking amazing because it's coming from you, sir. And I want to tell you one thing that you were saying. I just want to go back about the planes. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm from Washington, D.C., Mr. McConnell, and um, I know for a fact that if a plane went into the Pentagon, which is complete bullshit, it's because the media has never shown you. They only show you the Pentagon, and it's they're very tight shots. And
Yeah.
so if they just panned the camera to the right a little bit, they would show an entire highway system there, big signs, everything, just like you were saying. I'm backing up what you were saying. I worked in news for a very long time until I didn't. So that was a very long time ago. But I just wanted to back up what you're saying. He's he's telling everyone the truth, and the truth is coming out everywhere now, and it's remarkable, and it's because of you. Thank you.
Thank you. And you moved me to tears. Thank you for that. You were very gracious. And then I just have to say something lighthearted, and it's a song. Because of you, there's a beat in my heart, or something like that. And it was because of you and your background in the news and how the news information was shared and prevented from being shared. So that was one of the greatest comments I've ever heard since I've been doing this. And I've been doing it one way or the other since the morning of 9/11. So thank you very much
I
for
want to tell you
confirming.
something. You want to hear something really crazy? I'm
Go
a
ahead.
very honest person. It's my personality. And, I think Jenny can back me up on that a little. She knows me a little bit better. But um, I- they hit me with a car. And I'm suffering still to this day because of it. Then I had to take some leave and be in and out of the hospital, like, because my back was all messed up. Then 9/11, morning of 9/11, I was getting an acupuncture treatment. I came out and I heard the news, and I called into the newsroom 4 times, Field. I was managing editor of news at NBC, the local. I know
Yeah.
I'm like doxing myself, and I really don't freaking care anymore, because you know what I
Good
was
for you.
told? I was told
No.
if I show up in the newsroom, I will be escorted out. Who tells you that? I ran the damn newsroom. Who tells you that? They covered it
Uh,
up. That's all. I'm sorry.
Oh, I know.
I'm getting upset.
No, don't get upset. Just realize how heroic you are, because you're somebody that was threatened, to shut up or go away. And that was the thanks you got for being manager editor. And I'm just going to tell you, I've been through the same ringer. One day, Northwest Airlines got a call from the United States Department of Justice, and they asked the management of Northwest Airlines if Northwest had a pilot employee named Field Mcconnell, and they said yes. And then they were told by the Department of Justice, you better get him to shut up, or you'll get no more route authority to the Orient. And so what I did, and I'm not going to tell you what a TFer is, because it's pretty vulgar. But what I did was I picked up my phone and I called the chief pilot of the Minneapolis pilot base, and I identified myself, because I never hide. I I just don't hide. But the guy I was talking to was one of the three chief pilots, and I'm not going to mention his name, and that's for his sake. But I said, to this guy, I said, this is Field Mcconnell. Do you know what Northwest Airlines is doing with my clock number? And that means my employee badge number. And he said, verbatim quote, he said, I've heard some things. What he meant was he knew what was going on, but he didn't want to humiliate me. And I said, well, yeah, first of all, I'm not going to be humiliated. I've been at Northwest for 29 years, and I've never had a problem. I've never been written up for anything that I've done wrong. I've never bent an airplane. That's what pilots say, instead of saying ding it or cause damage to an aircraft, which is getting more common. Now the media is publishing those stories when two aircraft collide on the ground. Or like about 2 months ago, when a commuter for Delta got upside down at the Toronto airport due to pilot error. That's my opinion. And I was a pilot for a lot longer than any of those pilots in that aircraft. And the name of the airline was, now I'm drawing a blank, but they're maybe it was Endeavor. I don't know. You can look it up.
I know
just
what you're talking. I do know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name. I thought it was Orlando, but I don't know. I don't remember.
it starts with an E, but that aircraft turned upside down on the ground because of the hard landing, which they should not have attempted. But anyway, long story short, when you got told not to come to the newsroom, I didn't get told not to come anymore to Northwest to fly and get paid and have fun. Being an airline pilot is a privilege. It's not an accomplishment. But anyway, what I did was I called the chief pilot, and I always have a hard time remembering the chief pilot secretary, but it just came to me, as it sometimes does. Her name was Ramona, and I said, Ramona, I need to speak to the chief pilot. And she put me in touch with the chief pilot. And when I said, do you know what they're doing with my clock number? He understood what I was saying. And he said, yeah, I've heard some stuff. And I said, well, I want to retire today. And he said, well, Field, it takes 6 weeks to retire. So you'll have to put in your intent to retire form, and then you'll be retired in 6 weeks. And I said, no. And I almost mentioned the guy's first name. I'm glad I didn't. But I said, no, that's not going to work. Not in my case, and not in this case. I'm going to retire today, and you guys can do the administrative things you have to do, or you and the rest of the Northwest management is not going to like what I do tomorrow. But I didn't tell him what I was going to do tomorrow. But he said, okay, well, go to the website, download the intent to retire, fill it out, and then fax it to Ramona, and you will be retired today. And I said, thank you. Uh, thank you very much for doing the right thing. I'm just trying to protect Northwest Airlines and protect it from me and the Department of Justice. Long story short, I got retired at about 4 p.m. on the day that I called in and asked to be retired. And I got a call from the lady that was, in fact, just to show you, my lucidity is still quite high. The lady's name was Carol A. Johnson at NWA.com. She called me at home and said, Field, this is Carol Johnson in the Northwest Pilot Retirement Office. And I said, well, what can I do for you, Carol? She said, you retired in one day. And she said, I've had this job for 28 years, and no pilot in 28 years has retired without giving me a request to retire. Not one in 28 years. And I said, well, Carol, I think what we should do, I think you should tell me in this phone conversation that I need to come to your office and fill out some retirement paperwork. And I think she was quite relieved. She said, that'd be great. Can you come in next Tuesday? And I said, yes. What time should I be there? And she told me about 1 p.m. So I got there a little earlier and I sat in her cubicle, and pretty soon she came in and she said, the reason I wanted to meet you is to find out how you got retired in a matter of hours, not days or weeks. And so I told her, and I told her that the Department of Justice was trying to punish Northwest Airlines for keeping me on the payroll. And so I did the right thing. I mean, I think it's the right thing. And in retrospect, I'm sure it's the right thing. Just to protect my employer, who pays me a fair amount every month in retirement, I quit that very day. And that protected Northwest from any punishment from the United States Department of Justice. And at one point, my own sister had been number 3 in the Department of Justice under that grotesque person from Miami, Florida, who is the Attorney General. I can't remember her name, maybe Jenny or someone.
Pam Bondi?
There was, no, that's the current. No, that was no, it was back in 2007. I'm talking about. I'm familiar with Pam Bondi. Um, and it doesn't matter. You can look it up. You can just, you know, try to figure out who the Attorney General was in 2007 when all this was occurring. Um, she was really not. She was compromised, the Attorney General, and she had a unusual lifestyle. How's that for sensitive? But that woman, even though she was the Attorney General of Florida, a couple of police officers responded to reports that there was a limousine or a station wagon parked at a certain location, and it was suspected there was something illegal going on in the car. And there was, pardon my cough. The Attorney General, who was big, she was really tall and big, she was having lesbian sex with an underage female, and yet she's the Attorney General.
Are you talking about
You know,
Janet Reno? Janet Reno?
yeah, Janet Reno. Thank you.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, good. Well, see, even if I can't remember it, and usually I can, if I start to say I can't remember right now, somebody that knows where I'm going, like Jenny just did. She's Janet Reno. And Janet Reno wasn't the only one involved in this. My own sister was. As long as I'm vilifying my sister was also involved in the Branch Davidian massacre and the Oklahoma City Murrah building. And so if anybody thinks that I love my sister, no, not since I knew what she's involved in. And yet here I am alive. And they had me in custody for 16 months. What they didn't know, who's they? Well, the governor of Florida and the governor of Wisconsin. And they abused my constitutional rights, which is not a big deal because we were still a colony of England until Trump came back to town. But now we're no longer a colony of England, and now we're a constitutional republic. So there's a lot of good things that'll be happening, and I would encourage people that want to follow the good things to keep Jenny's Rumble account or her chat room on your speed dial, because you might hear a lot of the truth first here. And I bet you there's some things I said today, and Jenny helped me by saying Janet Reno. Yeah, thank you, Jenny. It was great.
Can I
But
just say one
there's
last thing, Field?
Please do.
Okay, I just want to say that yes, they kept me away from the newsroom that day. And no one ever asked me to fudge a story because they knew I would never have gone with that, And I fought in the end with some key people who I didn't understand why they were pushing for like these certain stories. And it all makes sense now. I was told to train a Mossad agent. I didn't know any of this, nothing of this until like 2017. And then in 2020, connecting, everybody is going to go through this. It doesn't matter what job you had, it doesn't matter. Everyone is affected. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
Jersey
before
girl.
you sign up, madam, I've had two Mossad employees in my house, not at the same time, on two different trips. And one of the Mossad agents is married, or no, he's not really a Mossad agent. His wife is. The gentleman that was in my house first was from Western New York State, but he was married to an Israeli Mossad female agent. And he told me that openly. And I think he came here to pick my brain. But one thing that he did to try to encourage me to have him stay in my house so he could attempt to pick my brain, he said if I could give him a copy of the movie I produced in 2007, it's called Captain Sherlock Solves 9/11, that at his own expense, he would get it duplicated 1,000 times. And earlier in this show, people heard me say there were 3 church ladies in my dining room on Sunday 4 days ago. And before they left, I gave them each a disc, a DVD of Captain Sherlock Solves 9/11. And the significance of that is it is assumed that I was Captain Sherlock, and there was no Captain Sherlock. That was fiction. But it was fiction that was useful to the good side, and that's where I clearly work. Um, I'm I'm not a U.S. military white hat, but I'm a private individual who does the same thing that the military white hats do. Is I voluntarily expose myself to some harsh treatment for telling the truth. But I really admire you, young lady, for telling the truth. And it does make your life a little iffy at times until the bad people find out that they're probably not going to be able to stop me unless they shoot me. And I've even said on live radio shows, there were 5 pedophile judges here in Wisconsin that wanted to get me off my property because I have a fairly large 5-bedroom home on 100 acres. And they thought it would be a great weekend getaway destination for disadvantaged youth, which means they wanted to sodomize kids, boys and girls both, in my house. I told them on a radio show, I know who you 5 guys are. And if you're going to come try to take my property, you better come with as large a force of police officers that you can muster. But I say, even if you had 50 police officers with you, just keep in mind, whoever shoots first gets the first kill. And, those guys are cowards. I had a judge in Pierce County, Wisconsin. I was in the jury box. I'd been selected for the jury. And the nature of the trial was some stepfather had abused his stepdaughter. I think the stepdaughter was probably 15 at the time. And then the judge, before he was going to release any of us jurors, he said, do any of you in the jury box have personal history with pedophilia? I raised my hand and he looked on his cheat sheet underneath his desk on his knees. He had a piece of paper with the names of the 12 people in the jury box. And he said, Mr. Mcconnell, are you saying you have a personal relationship to pedophilia? And I said, yes, Judge. I didn't say Your Honor because I don't honor those types of people. I said, yes, Judge. My own sister and Hillary Clinton run Pedogate and Pizzagate, which are the biggest child trafficking organizations in the world. He put his hands on his ears and said, too much information, you're excused. Well, the beauty of that is, I could probably go to the court reporter, or no, excuse me, court recorder, and take a look at that comment that I made and see what he did with it, which is absolutely nothing. He wanted me to shut up and go away. And I wanted to shut up and go away too, because I don't like to play the games they play. But a lot of people are afraid to push back against attorneys or judges. I'm not. If they're a bunch of homosexual pedophiles, then they're not going to get my property. But anyway, I really appreciate talking to you, young lady, and maybe we'll see each other again on one of these Jenny show. Jenny,
Phil.
would you
Yeah.
like to call another question?
Yes, thank you. I've got a few hands here. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Jersey Girl. Yes, Jersey Girl is here in the chat often. If not, I see her over in the X spaces as well. So, okay, so Tamara, I do see that you're back in here. So since I called on you before, go ahead. Your mic is unmuted. And then Brian, you can go after Tamara. Go ahead, Tamara.
Hi, Phil and Jenny. So appreciate you guys and all the work that you guys do here. My question to you, Phil, is kind of in reference to Boeing. Wanted to kind of know where we are seeing at the end of this, what is going to happen with Boeing. The reason I asked this question is I kind of have a bit of a history with them. My father, who passed away a couple years ago, had been very involved with Boeing on the aerospace industry, and kind of in a nutshell, he kind of had an interesting story. For basically 6 years prior to him passing, um, he had the FBI using him as his business as an informant with Boeing, which was kind of an interesting thing. He had a patent that he also wanted to um, had dealings with in China, and then the FBI came in and basically shut all of that down. Um, so I'm just kind of curious with Boeing. I live in the Northwest. I'm just kind of curious where this is going to go with Boeing and some of the things that we are hearing about them. If you can shed any
Well,
light on that.
well, I can tell you that Boeing's not the problem.
Okay.
General Electric built the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot, and they delivered them under contract to Boeing. Boeing, not knowing what the true nature of the BUAP was, installed them starting in 1995, I believe,
Hmm.
uh, on every new Boeing aircraft. And I said that during a radio show probably 8 or 10 years ago. And somebody in my own chat room, Abel Danger, basically raised his hand or pushed a button and started to speak. He said, Field, you're absolutely wrong. Boeing doesn't have an uninterruptible autopilot. And he was trying to correct me, but he wasn't trying to cover up for anybody. Um, but then I said, would it help you understand what I'm saying if I could direct you to the patent and the patent number for the BUAP? And he said, yes. After the radio show that day, I got a call from him. And by the way, he worked in a pretty important office at Boeing. And he said, I owe you an apology. I didn't know that this company that I work for had the BUAP. And I said, well, that's what I do is I spread the truth in a way that a high school sophomore with a C minus average can understand it. And then one day I got a picture of a BUAP installed in a brand new Boeing aircraft. And it was not an airliner, it was a KC-46 Pegasus, and you can look that up, KC-46 Pegasus. And he said,
Okay.
please don't share this picture with anybody, because he knows I've published a lot of stuff, but I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But here's my answer to where's this going with Boeing. I think it'll go well for Boeing. And like you, my father benefited greatly from Boeing. He flew the Boeing B-47 and the Boeing B-52, and he had a Q clearance, which means nuclear. And my father was a very good officer in the Air Force, and he'd been a POW of the Japanese for 16 months, from October 18th of 44 until when he was released. So you come from the same background as I do. My relationship to Boeing is I'm a friend of Boeing. And if they ever get dragged into court by Airbus or the FAA, I'd be more than happy to go and defend Boeing, because a lot of the people at Boeing didn't know they had that BUAP, but they did. And it's because General Electric didn't tell them what the capabilities were when they delivered the part. And going to China now, Boeing paid a large fine for exporting. I think the number was 94 Boeing uninterruptible autopilots to China, and China put them in a lot of the Boeing 737s that are operating domestically in China. So, and there's been numerous aircraft, not all Boeings, but that Boeing uninterruptible autopilots, uh, they are a great risk to the traveling public. And just before I say thank you for the good question, I think it was in May of 2012, a Russian Sukhoi, Sukhoi, superjet that had a Boeing uninterruptible autopilot. And this is, I'm going to speak slowly and I hope clearly. In May of 2012, a Sukhoi superjet was commandeered electronically by the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot and driven into Mount, that's MT, the abbreviation for mountain, Mount Salak, Salak. And if I think anybody, I mean, if anybody wants to confirm that, if you put in Mount Salak, Salak, Sukhoi Superjet, and Boeing uninterruptible autopilot, I think that's enough to lead you to the story. And the story is that Warren Buffett, who has Berkshire Hathaway, was backing a Canadian regional jet. And I think he had a $9 billion investment in the Bombardier product in Canada. And so I'm not suggesting that Warren Buffett would have arranged for that airliner with a crew of Russian pilots and some either Russian or Indonesian citizens. They were all killed. That's a rather horrific way to die, being a jet airplane that flies into, a rock. Uh, it would have been a stone or something else that wasn't going to give, and they killed them all. And yet, oh, and by the way, this is, it's coming back to me now. I shared that information with Vladimir Putin. And 2 days after I shared that information with Vladimir Putin, it was on the front page of numerous Russian periodicals, meaning newspapers. And when I'm sort of a toxic person, meaning that if Vladimir Putin or somebody like a big shot at Airbus, if they knew I was talking about the criminality of their business, they'd be upset. That's too bad. If you want to be upset about the truth, you're not going to upset me. I'll tell the truth until somebody kills me or I die of natural causes. Because the truth is the truth. And according to the Bible, the truth will set you free. And I'm a free man today, and I'm still speaking. So, does that help answer your question? I'm very confident Boeing will survive. And if anybody's going to pay the price, it'll be Airbus. Airbus has been trying to destroy Boeing, but it isn't going to happen on my watch because Boeing has been making America safer for 50 years or more. And actually, it's more than that. It's going, yeah, about 70 years or 75 years. So Boeing's on the right track, but they got some powerful enemies, one being Warren Buffett and the other being Airbus. Any other question, young lady?
No, I totally appreciate that. And I actually, I'm the holder of that patent now. And so that's why I have been holding on to it, waiting to see how this all pans out.
Thank you, Tamara.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Field. All right, Field. I have 4 more questions here. You good? You got a few more minutes? I've got 4 more hands to go to.
Yeah, let's go. That's fine.
All right. Okay, so let's see. Brian, it's your turn. Go ahead, my friend. Your mic is unmuted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jenny. I watch a lot of what you do and I really appreciate it. In Field, I listen to you a lot and love what you have to say, and I learn a lot. A little background, I was actually involved in searching for the MH370 in the Southern Indian Ocean and for several months. And obviously we didn't find anything, but I listened to a lot and kind of followed this from the sidelines over the years. But my question is, I heard at some point about on the flight there were some people that held some military technology that was highly valuable that was going to go to China, and that there were also some agents on the airplane that were trying to stop that. And I'm just curious if you know anything about that. And is that all BS or was there something to that?
No, that's accurate. It's not BS. but there were 5 patent holders of a certain patent, and it was a patent relating to an aircraft, pardon me, an airliner-sized aircraft could be made invisible to radar. And the people that created that were 4 aeronautical engineers from Freescale, and Freescale is what used to be called Motorola. And now this is going to make some people's skin crawl. There were 4 good people from Freescale on the aircraft, but the fifth patent holder was Jacob Rothschild. Are you familiar with that name?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, because the other 4 died, he got all of the patent money because he was the only living patent holder, and he sold it at a profit to an Israeli intelligence organization. So,
Hmm.
and I've
Okay.
exposed
Well,
that in the past. Does that make sense to
yeah,
you?
yes, it does. Yeah, and I appreciate that. I'm 80 years old, so I'm a little older than you are, and sometimes my brain I don't recall everything that I hear, but I try to stay up on it. So I appreciate that, and that answers my question. Again, I appreciate what you do, Phil. I listen to you, and I learn a lot. And a lot of the stuff that you talk about, I don't have evidence of it, but I suspect it from what I hear from other people. And so a lot of the stuff you talk about clears things up for me and makes perfect sense. And the same with 9/11 and everything that you've talked about, the Boeing uninterruptible power supply or autopilot and all of that.
Autopilot, yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate you answering my question, and I appreciate what you do. And Jenny, I listen to you. I try to follow a lot of this stuff, and I learn a lot. And I know this next year is going to be a lot of stuff going on. And what you talk about, Field, and all of that, I follow it very closely. So I'm anxiously awaiting, and every day something else comes out. So I keep following. And again, I appreciate what you do. So thanks a lot.
I'm just doing it for one reason. First of all, it is the thing to do, but you might want to scribble this down. The reason I do what I do, and I'm as aggressive in the way I do it as I can be, is because in the Old Testament, Psalm 94:16, I'll say that again, Psalm 94:16, God was looking down on Sodom and Gomorrah, and he was incensed, and he said, "Who on earth will take on these evildoers for me?" I read that about 5 times when I was alone in my office at night, and I felt like I was being communicated with. And I'm a Christian, but I'm not one of the guys that raises my hands in church, just to show something. Uh, but after reading it about 5 times, I felt convinced he had caused me to read that because it says, "Who on earth will take on these evildoers for me?" And after reading it 5 times, I put my hand in the air and I said, "God, if you can't find a better servant on earth regarding taking care of the evildoers, I volunteer for the job if you don't have somebody better qualified." And then there was another Bible verse, Ephesians 5:11. It says, "Have nothing to do with the evil deeds of darkness, but rather expose them." And those 2 scriptures are why I do what I do. And I think I should have been killed a long time ago for what I know. They did it to a guy named William Cooper, who goes by Bill Cooper. He was gunned down by 2 sheriffs or 2 sheriff department deputies in his driveway at home somewhere in Arizona. And I know how how these people like to shut people up. But they haven't been able to shut me up yet. And, that's the beauty of being so public with this specific information, because it would make it real easy if I were to die of unnatural causes. If anybody had the nerve in law enforcement, to do their job, I would be proven accurate for what I've been doing for 24 years. So thank you very much, young kid of 80. I'm much younger. I'm only 75, and maybe it's people our age that are going to turn this around. And between your age and my age, Donald Trump, I think, will be getting credit for all he's doing to turn this around. And it's all related to child trafficking. So thank you for the question, sir. That was a delight.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Field, for your great answers. All right, Miss Michelle, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead. I think it's Michelle Imoff. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Field. Hi, Jenny. I just have a
Hi.
question. Do you know anything about the underwater bases in the ocean with Giselle Maxwell transporting children in submarines to different locations?
Yes, I do. And when I was in jail in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, it's funny what you can learn in jail, because not many percentage wise, but invariably when somebody is caustic to the nefarious things happening in our country, they get thrown in jail on or they get shot, But I was thrown in jail, and I was very confused because I was arrested on the 4th of November of 2019, and there were seven. There were 5 plus 2 is 7 sheriff deputies that came to arrest me when I was 70 years old. I'd done nothing illegal, and I didn't have a criminal record. And so when I saw these 7 police officers and 5 police cars in front of my office in Plum City, Wisconsin, population 600, I was very surprised to see 7 of them. But I said, "Is there anything I can do for you, gentlemen? You're standing in front of my office where I'm heading right now." And I said, "Is there anything I can do to make your job easier?" And one of them said, "Yes, turn around and put your hands behind your back." I thought, well, this is going to be fun. So I got arrested right there and there. I got put in, and I was going to say thrown in a police car. No, that wouldn't be accurate. I was placed in a police car, and they took me to the sheriff's office in Ellsworth, 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 Wisconsin, and they processed me into jail, and they kept me there for about 1, 2, 3, 3.5 or 4 months. I got the dates. I went to jail on the 4th of November of 2019. And I think I was eventually released from a different jail down in Florida on the 16th of January of 2021. So, Bill Cooper got shot by 2 police officers, and he knew a great deal, and his background is similar to mine. He started in the Navy. I think that's correct. Or maybe he started in the Air Force and went to the Navy. But anyway, he spent time on active duty in both the Navy and the Air Force. And I went to Annapolis, which is the Naval Academy, and I spent time 4 years at Annapolis, 6 years in the Marine Corps, and then 16 years in the North Dakota Air National Guard. And so I've been sort of a observer of some of these dastardly deeds. And, I'm not one that's going to keep my mouth shut, my eyes closed. I'm going to listen and learn, and then I'm going to share it. And I've got to give a lot of credit to Jenny for having the nerve to have me on her show. Um, and I'm very confident the good guys are not only winning right now, but it'll be known before too much longer that we have won. And there's many good things going on that will be happening fairly soon, including the revelation of the biggest transfer of wealth in world history. And Donald Trump is behind that, and the military white hats are doing the strong arm tactics. And I'm publishing or talking on Jenny's show every time she offers me a chance. And it's got to be a little. I think Jenny would say, and she's gonna have the opportunity to say it. But I bet when she got started, especially when she gets somebody like me, maybe it puts a little fear in her heart. When I started whistleblowing, one day I put a sphygmomanometer on my arm and took my own blood pressure, and it was 260 over 160. And so I called my medical examiner, whose name was Dr. David J. Glatt in Fargo, North Dakota, and his receptionist answered the phone. Her first name was Denise, not the Denise I was married to. My Denise was English, and this Denise was from Fargo. And I said, "Is Dr. Glatt in?" "No, he's off today." I said, "Well, is there a MD or an RN that could take my blood pressure and then enter it into my record?" And the Denise that was allowing me to come in, she said, "Yes, but what do you think your blood pressure is?" I said, 260 over 160. And she said, "Well, how are you going to drive the 15 miles from your farm to the hospital? Is there somebody who can drive you?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to drive." And she says, "That's dangerous. You could have a stroke." And I said, "Well, if I have a stroke, I probably won't know it. But it's important that I get my blood pressure recorded by a medical professional." So that's what I did. I went in, an MD took my blood pressure, and he got the same thing I got, 260 over 160. And then I was cautioned. They were saying, "We're going to have to do something about your blood pressure, or you could have a stroke." And the good news is, folks, I haven't had my blood pressure anywhere near that high for a long time. But if I have a stroke, I have a stroke. And I will have a stroke for God. I would have a stroke for the children being trafficked. I would have a stroke for any lady, and I didn't say woman or female, I said any lady. There are some entities that are worth good people dying to protect them. So I'm not dead yet, and I'm not going to give up yet. And that's my answer. Did I answer your question, sir?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
Oh, ma'am, sorry.
No problem.
Thank you, Michelle. All
Thank
right,
you. Bye bye.
Christine, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead, and then Maya Joe, you can go after Christine. Go ahead, Christine. Are you there, Christine? Push the blue button in the middle of your microphone or in your screen, middle of your screen.
There we
Okay,
go.
there you
I
go.
would
Go ahead.
like I would like to bless both you, Jenny, and Field for everything that you both have done because I have learned so much. I am 74, Field. I'm a grandmother of 10 and a great grandmother of 15. My life has been very full, but I'm having a lot of trouble lately. And I just want to thank you and watch over God with you. Thank you, guys.
You're very welcome. Jenny, could you remind me what her first name was?
Christine, and God bless you, Christine. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Jenny, would you mind if I said a very, very brief prayer?
Yeah, go ahead, Field.
Dear Heavenly Father, dear Jesus, I'm asking you to keep your eye on this 74-year-old lady named Christine, who apparently is having some medical issues, as most of us do as we age. And I was really touched when she said that she had 10 grandchildren. Get a load of this coincidence, Christine. Pardon my cough. My 31-year-old daughter is going to bless me with my 10th grandchild on October 31st by C-section.
Bless
And
you.
yeah, well, isn't that wonderful? And so I am asking God to keep his eye on you and your health. And then when it's your time to go home, you know, don't hesitate, because I'll see you in heaven. We can talk about these issues when we meet. And I know where I'm going to end up. Uh, I don't know what's going to cause me to be called home, but I'm not afraid of it, because I love God. I love Jesus Christ. I loved my wife before she died, and I love serving humanity. So thank you very much. And God, I pray this in the mighty and innocent name of Jesus Christ, your Son. Amen.
Thank you, Field. That's meant so much. I look forward to meeting you in heaven.
Yeah, well, I'll be
Bye.
hanging around the front. Yeah, no, you'll meet me in heaven, and I'm sure we'll be put in touch by God, or maybe his son would be on duty when the
Yes,
second of us gets to heaven.
yes. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Field. Bless you both.
God bless you. Thank you,
God
Christine. Thank
bless
you
you.
for that beautiful prayer.
Thank you.
All right. Maya Joe, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead. Go ahead, Maya Joe. Just push the blue button in the middle of your screen. Okay. All right. No Maya Joe. All right, everybody. Field typically gives us 90 minutes of his time. He gave us a little extra time today. And Field, we'll see you next Monday.
That sounds fine, Jenny. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see you in our little chat that we have on the offshoot. But everybody, once again, thank you for being here. God bless you all. Because remember, everybody, the revival of America could not be what it is without you guys wanting to know the truth and all of your participations. Please come back here at 5:30 Central Standard Time. We will have Captain Kyle on, and then we'll be over on my X space at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time for Josh Reed Red Pill TV, and he will be talking about the silent war, as well as going over the biggest wealth transfer in human history. Many people call it the Nasara Jasara, but I do believe it's going to be called something different and maybe rolled out differently than maybe what we have heard or researched. So, with that, everybody, God bless you. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you on the other podcast. Thank you. And Santino, I appreciate you being here. I saw you squeeze in here like there toward the end, but God bless you all. We'll see you guys shortly. Take care. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, God bless you, Jenny. Bye bye.
Bye bye.